It is everybody's favorite time of the year, the NBA All-Star voting. Now, it's what, October, November? No, it's December, and they actually don't do the picks for the selections for the All-Star game until February. So there is a long freaking time until we have to actually say, well, this is the best player in each conference, blah, 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 blah. All that being said, voting is open as of today, and let's go ahead and make some picks. Now, first things first, we got to talk about the best guards in the Western Conference. I think there's no competition. Luka Doncic, obviously, he's in MVP voting, MVP races. I don't love his defense. I don't love his body language. I don't love how the Mavericks are doing, but you cannot deny his statistical performances. He's the best guard in the Western Conference. And secondary is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the most clutch guard right now. I think he's a tick ahead of Steph Curry just because of all those amazing performances. If the Thunder didn't have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, they'd probably be a 5-win team. All that said, Steph Curry definitely could be a selection here as well. I would not hate that. You look at the assists, he's what, 1.3 points less than Shai. More assists, more rebounds, and you can clearly see the impact that the Warriors have with and without him being on the court. All that being said, I think it's time for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to get his due and be the other starting guard for the Western Conference. Going over to the Eastern Conference, and it's, man, I got Donovan Mitchell, period. I think there's no argument, no discussion. Donovan Mitchell is a fringe MVP candidate this season. He has been balling out. He's been unreal. He's been winning games for the Cleveland Cavaliers that they probably shouldn't be. So I'm definitely putting Donovan Mitchell there. And then the next is kind of, what do you value more? Do you value wins and losses? Do you value stats? Do you value usage rate? Because Trae Young statistically is there. 27 points, 10 assists. That's just a clear cut, oh my God, that's an MVP almost type of season. That being said, he doesn't really give you anything defensively. The Hawks have been struggling, so you could make the argument Jaylen Brown as a more two-way guard, averaging more rebounds, less assists than Trae Young. What do you value more there? Do you value defense? Do you value how the team is performing? I think for now, though, I'm just going to put Trae Young because you can't argue with the numbers. 27 and 10 is, I mean, it's great, period. So Trae Young going to be my other guard for the starting All-Star game. Moving on to the forward/centers. And no surprises here, Anthony Davis has to be making this list. And I know he's going to be hurt and he's going to miss a significant amount of time. But you just look at the stats right now, Anthony Davis is probably the best center forward in the Western Conference. Behind him, I got Nikola Jokic. I know that the stats are a little bit down, 25 points, 9 assists, 10.9 rebounds. You saw he had a, 47 and 27 game, a triple-double. He's been not quite as good as his MVP seasons as far as statistically. I mean, let's take a look. So we'll look at this year. He's only averaging 25 when he have 27 and 26 in his MVP seasons. Then you look at rebounds, 10.8, 13.8, 10.9. So it's okay. And you look at assists, 8.3, 7.9, 9.0. So more assists, less points, roughly the same rebounds. So it's not, head and shoulders above his previous season statistically. But I have to say that he's the best center in the Western Conference, and I'm always putting a center in the All-Star game. So that means, who is the best forward? Do you want LeBron James or do you want Zion Williamson? That is really the question. And it's kind of tough because LeBron is old as dirt these days. He doesn't play defense at all. His offense is struggling, but he's still putting up great numbers. He's a great front runner, to say the least. The Lakers are a horrible basketball team, but hey, LeBron James statistically looks very good. So I think you kind of go with the same argument that we did for Trae Young. You can't argue with the numbers. 27, 6, and 8.5 are just monstrous numbers that any player would love to have on their stat line. And when you talk about defense, Zion Williamson isn't even a great defender in his own right. So his 25, 4, and 7, those are great stats that he's putting up as well. He can't shoot. LeBron can't shoot. I'm just going to put LeBron James. I think he is deserving of the final pick in the Western Conference, which is a little bit of a come down because normally he's so good that he's representing the Western Conference. Moving on to the Eastern Conference, and we got Giannis, who's in the MVP race. I have him as number one. I think people put Jason Tatum or Luka. I just think Giannis is performing so well. Best team record-wise in the league right now. Giannis is a beast. Joel Embiid, second right there, leading the league in scoring, having a monstrous season statistically of his own right. I think his impact is a little less. He's super reliant on free throws, as he always is, so it's hard to say because the 76ers are kind of struggling right now. How much does Joel Embiid fall for that? That said, he's performing well on a hot streak right now. Cannot argue with the stats. And then we have kind of a tie here. So you look at Kevin Durant and Jason Tatum. You got 30.4 points to 30.2 points. You got 4.1 assists to 5.3 assists. You got 6.6 rebounds to 8.2 rebounds. So realistically, you break everything down, they're super close. So you got to decide what is better, wins or losses. And I have to go with the team that was, for the most part, the best team in the NBA record-wise. I still have them as the best team in the league in the power rankings, and I think that Jason Tatum is leading the way. He deserves to be the starter for the All-Star game. So I'm going to say, sorry, Kevin Durant. I know the Brooklyn Nets are on a hot streak right now. They're producing well ever since they got rid of Steve Nash. Jason Tatum is that dude, and that is the final picks for my NBA All-Star voting. Western Conference, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander making his first All-Star game and starting. Luka Doncic being fat. Anthony Davis being injured. Nikola Jokic can't play defense, and LeBron James is old. On the Eastern Conference, you have Donovan Mitchell, who's short. Trae Young, who's even shorter. Giannis can't shoot. Joel Embiid can only play with the fouls. And Jason Tatum, he's pretty good. Now, that would be pretty easy to do. You say, all right, well, these are the players that you should represent. So you know what we're going to do, because we always do it a little bit differently on this channel, is we're going to be electing the reserves. Who needs starters when you got reserves out here playing in the All-Star game as backups off the bench? So yes, Luka Doncic, yes, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Who's going to be following them behind that? Because everybody's going to vote for their starters. Nobody votes for their reserves. So first of all, Steph Curry, I was making the argument that he should have been an All-Star game starter. I know he's out for a little while, but the dude has been ridiculous. He's making an MVP case for the Warriors. Steph Curry having one heck of a season. Now, who comes behind him? Do you want Booker? Do you want Lillard? Do you want Ja? Do you want Bane? Do you want De'Aaron Fox? Tough to say. My argument for Devin Booker is if he gets that scoring up to 30 points per game, that's his job. He's not the facilitator. I know he can do that for the Suns, but that's more of Cliff Paul's job. So Devin Booker is a scorer. You saw when he put up 58 points against the whoever I already forgot. Damian Lillard, you can see night and day how the Blazers play with him and without him. With him, they're, middle of the pack in that what the fuck is the NBA tier of every single team is kind of good, trying to compete for a championship, but will they really? Without him, they suck. They're maybe a playing team at best. So I have Damian Lillard ahead of Devin Booker. But if Book gets his scoring up to 30 points per game, he starts competing for that scoring the most points per game scoring title. That's the word I'm looking for. I have no words. I have the best words.
I know words. I have the best words.
Then I say Devin Booker definitely belongs. But right now, I got Damian Lillard just a tick ahead of him. So 2 point guards going to be coming out for my point guards in the Western Conference. Going over to the East, no Donovan Mitchell, no Trae Young. I made the argument for Jaylen Brown, so he's certainly going to get that first spot. And then who do you want? Kyrie Irving, who's been playing lights out, even though he hates the Jews. Do you want DeMar DeRozan on the struggling Bulls squad? I don't really have any arguments for some of these guys below him. James Harden just hasn't played enough games. The stat line is ridiculous. If you look at it, 22 points, 10.5 assists, 6.6 rebounds. Jalen Brunson certainly making an argument, not so much statistically, but what he's done to transform that team from a God, are they going to be good team to, wow, the Knicks are actually going to be competing for possibly the Eastern Conference Finals this season. So my argument is Kyrie Irving or James Harden. You look at the stats, Kyrie's leading in scoring, 26 points per game versus 22 points per game. James Harden way ahead in assists, 10.5 assists to 4.5, and then 6.6 rebounds to 4.8. So you know what? I'm going to go with James Harden here. I think it's a little bit more impactful the way he plays versus Kyrie Irving just being a pure natural scorer. I know Kyrie Irving has some facilitation abilities, but his job is to say that the earth is flat and to score buckets. So going over to the Western Conference, no Anthony Davis, no LeBron James, no Nikola Jokic. I made the argument for Zion, so he is, of course, going to be the first guy off the board. Now, do you want to do a center or 3 forwards? I can't make the argument for Karl Towns because he's been out. Can't make the argument for DeAndre Ayton, even though he's been really monstrous lately. Christian Wood. Who else is the center? Rudy Gobert? No, thank you. He's not going to make the All-Star game. So we're going with 3 forwards. Who do you want as the forwards to represent the Western Conference? I think Jeremy Grant has certainly earned a spot. Paul George is always in the running. Lauri Markkanen, Keldon Johnson, no. Domantas Sabonis, 12 rebounds and 18 points. The points aren't there, but the rebounds certainly say this man is belonging. He is, I guess, maybe a center. 6.4 assists. You know, it's kind of Nikola Jokic-y. I'm going to put Domantas Sabonis as my backup center for the Western Conference. Just a really impressive overall stat line. The Kings have been turning around. They're actually a winning franchise to some extent. I'm saying this right after they lost to the NBA's worst team, the Charlotte Hornets. But hey, the Kings have turned it around. They aren't the bottom dwellers of the Western Conference. Let's go, Rockets. And then the final player, I'm going to put Paul George just because of the way that he's put the team on his back. Kawhi Leonard, no Kawhi Leonard, doesn't matter. Paul George is going to go out there and he's going to produce for the Clippers when he's healthy. So we got Zion, Sabonis, and Paul George as the reserves for the forwards. And here in the Eastern Conference, I made the argument for Kevin Durant, so of course he belongs. No Joel Embiid, Giannis, and Jason Tatum. Now I got to put Jimmy Buckets. This dude is clutch. This dude is a bucket. Whenever you need somebody to make some points, Jimmy is that dude in the fourth quarter. He doesn't play as many minutes as he used to because he's what, 34 at this point? That's old in basketball years. But my God, Jimmy Butler having himself a season. And the final player for the Eastern Conference, probably Pascal if you're just looking at statistics, maybe Bam to a lesser extent, but I can't really make the argument for some of these guys. Evan Mobley, that's just not going to happen. Jared Allen, you could realistically say he's the center too. Kristaps Porzingis has been lights out. So I got to say, it's between Kristaps Porzingis and Pascal Siakam. Who is having a better season? I know Kristaps is having his best season in a long time. But you look at the stats, you just can't argue with them. Pascal, 25, Kristaps, 22. Pascal, 6.8 assists as he's a bit of a facilitator for the Raptors. Kristaps, 2.7. Pascal, 8.6 rebounds. Kristaps 8.9. So I'm going to put Pascal Siakam as the final All-Star reserve for the Eastern Conference. So these are your backup All-Stars that I'm going to be voting for because I'm just that dude. I'm the guy who goes, I'm ahead of the curve. So these I'm going to review and submit. And, oh boy, you have to enter all this crap. Did it save them? Yeah, all right, whatever. These are going to be my votes after I input all the passwords and blah, 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 you know.
Do you have an email? We'd like to email you all the time about all these offers that we have. It's great. Please send us money.
Stupid freaking spam emails and spam calls. Oh my God. Stop asking me about my goddamn car insurance. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. Let me know who you voted for, and I'll catch you in the next one.